Good.
Perfect. You know, when I was looking at my booking schedule for this episode and Lisa Cornwell, your name appeared, and I said, you know what, this is gonna be one of them episodes. So first and foremost, how are you
I'm
today?
great, Rory. Great to be with you.
I like that. I love that. And two, May 23rd, 2023 is a very, very important day. And I want you to give the Mitchell Portaleash podcast listeners the reason why it's an important day.
Well, that is the official release date of my memoir, which I'm sure we will get into in great detail, called Troublemaker. It's officially available in bookstores, on Amazon, Walmart.com, Target, wherever you go to buy books. We're still working on the audio book deal. That seems to be taking a little bit more time. I'm not sure why. I'm very unfamiliar with this whole publishing industry. My background is broadcast journalism, and so it's quite different. But yeah, like we've been off and running. The book's been finished for quite some time. I've had my hands on a copy now for a little bit over a month. So it's really exciting. I can't believe that it's almost here. I'm a little bit nervous, but I only say a little bit. I think just the nerves don't come from anything other than, I'm really putting myself out there, which I'm used to doing, and I'm okay with that. But there will be feedback. I hope most of it is good because it's an honest assessment of not only what happened at Golf Channel but throughout my life.
Well, there's a lot to talk about. And first and foremost, Tucker Booth, I know has a lot to do with that book also too. So speak on that. He's been a part of this platform for now over my lord, it has to be the last three
Yeah.
years. A brilliant mind and just a man that can speak on the mic, do all that great stuff. And what's his role into the
So
book
Tucker
there?
wrote the book with me, and it was really a great collaboration. I knew when I first decided that I wanted to venture into this project that I needed some help. Like I said, my background is broadcast journalism, and I'm a decent writer. I mean, I think that I can write stories and scripts and things that people will read and find engaging. But there's a real art to storytelling. I've been a reader for my entire life, and I've read a lot of memoirs. And while the story is mine, and I did write a lot of it, especially the background growing up and some of the younger things that happened to me during my childhood and youth and upbringing. When you get into different legal aspects of like what happened to me at Golf Channel, it really takes, I think, a gifted storyteller to be able to put that into words that makes the reader compelled to want to read more. And I didn't know Tucker at all. So when I first went public with my story about what happened to me at Golf Channel, it was simply through a tweet. And Tucker messaged me, asked me to come on his podcast. And like I do with anybody, I do a little bit of research before I just say yes. And I came across a profile that he had written on the first executive producer at Golf Channel. His name is Michael Whalen, and I didn't know Michael at all back then. And just reading the way that Tucker described sort of what he went through, not only at the network, but then dealing with some personal demons, it just captivated me. And I knew within like 3 pages of reading this. I don't even know how long this profile was, maybe 50 pages, 60 pages. I knew immediately that Tucker was the guy I wanted to approach first. I mean, I knew that he wasn't an author by trade. He obviously, to me, was a good writer because he pulled me in with his writing on Mike Whalen. And I thought, maybe I could afford him. I didn't, maybe he would want to venture. I didn't know if he wanted to write a book, but our partnership was great. Tucker's become like a brother to me. He's defended me when some of these, uh, how do you say it politely, assholes. Is that polite enough? Okay, yeah. On
Listen, we can. This is why it's called the Mitchell
No,
Portaleash. I'm telling you, you're
that's
hitting a niche.
sarcasm.
Say
That
whatever
was
you want to say,
sarcasm
man.
coming in, but antagonist on Twitter, because they said some awful things, and Tucker was there, at my defense, and we spent a lot of time sort of going back and forth on the story because there's a lot to it. And that's why I say, everybody, not to totally get away from the question that you asked, but everybody has a story. You don't have to be on a national network to tell your story. Everybody's been through something. Everybody is going through something. Everybody has their own story to tell. And Tucker really cared about my story. And, he vetted me just like I vetted him. And it ended up being a perfect partnership. I wouldn't have changed any of it for anything. And I'm forever grateful to Tucker for what he's done.
No, no, absolutely. And again, shout outs to him. You know what I mean? Every time he does the intro for the show, Mitchell Port Unleashed podcast network, he says series. I can't do it like him in his voice, but just such a brilliant man. So shout outs to him. And I'm happy to see that he's protecting a lot of us in the Twitter realm, because Twitter is a very
Oh,
unfamiliar
it's
place.
horrible.
Like there's a lot of trolls,
There's a lot of hate.
you
A
know,
lot of hate.
people behind
Yeah.
burner
Yeah.
accounts, and it's like, my thing I wanted to ask you though is, what was the most challenging part to write this book? Because I know this book is deep. And I like to take people through a journey on this podcast before we get really into it. What was the most challenging part? You speak about Golf Network and things like that. Was that something that I had to deal with, or what was it?
No, I don't think telling the story was the most challenging. I think, having not done this before, and I knew that because we had a publisher, we would also have an editor. And I mean, I'm admittedly a little OCD, so I couldn't just hand over, I couldn't just like vomit information and just hand it over to the editor and say, okay, you clean this up. It's just not how I operate. So I was very meticulous in the writing. So when, if I wrote a chapter or if Tucker wrote a chapter, it was kind of, going back through and saying, this is good, but this isn't right. We have to tell this better. Um, we have to make sure that we're really selling the story properly and giving the story the love and attention that it deserves. So I think that it was just sort of the fine tuning of the story and really making it as readable as possible without getting the reader lost in all the information. And I would say that that was probably the overall most difficult. In the beginning, it was, I think, telling the story without being angry. Because when I first went public about what happened to me in terms of sexism and retaliation, I was really angry. I had busted my tail off for this network. I never called in sick one day. I never said no to an assignment. I never said no to an appearance request. The only thing that I did was challenge them when I saw them mistreating other employees or mistreating me. I stood up for myself and I stood up for other people. In every part of the world, it should be okay to do that. In this country, it certainly should be okay and welcome to do so. That doesn't happen, as we know, in a lot of corporate America. It doesn't happen in my world that I live in the media often enough. In fact, there are a lot of folks who get shot down like I did and kicked out the door because they challenge the system. They don't like that. I mean, it's the good old boys club, and in golf, it's the good old white boys club. So um, I just I refuse to play along with it. I don't do things for money. I don't do things for status. If you're mistreating people, I don't care if you threaten my job. I'm not going to back down. I couldn't sleep at night if I did. It's not in me.
You say a lot there, Lisa, about the corporations. I still work a 9 to 5. I've worked from home, about 8 months ago. And no, I'm lying, 2 months ago, which transitions to 8 months, right? People do the math and stuff like that. And one of my things is I challenge a lot of what happened on the back end, the company that I still work for. And you see where, I'll say it, people, once you call something out, they are on the back of their heels, right? They don't ever take consideration of what it is that we're doing. We show up, we don't call it for work sick. We bust our butt. we're making all of these, things that is we're doing, but we always get the short end of the stick. You see it happening a lot of times in work. You talk amongst your guy groups, female groups, whatever it is, right? And one of the things is the more I feel like the more you work hard is the more you don't get the credit that credit's due. They rather simply sit here and look at the person that just shows up, calls out sick, lazy, and then it's like, oh yes, you're handed a position, and then the egos start getting
Yeah.
inflated.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm happy. That's why I said this episode here is going to be already what we're 10 minutes in, and I just know that it's going to be one of the best episodes for 2023 because I feel like we have the same similar view, and I see it. A lot of egos in this workplace, and I'm over it.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Because some people get handed a position that they know that they don't even have control in their own household. So when they go to work, it's like, oh, look at me now. I have power. Do you really have power? Or is it this because you were handed this, you think now you can, treat people this way and point your finger this way and, like you say, sexism and things like that, which is a whole talking point within itself.
Yeah. Like I mean, it, it happens constantly. And it's not just the people I think who are handed it. Unfortunately, a lot of people who work hard and do deserve be in those positions, uh, they feel like that it's okay to treat people that way. It's absolutely not. I don't care if you're the president of the United States. It's not okay to do that. I don't care what position you're in. In society today, we worry more about status, I think, and less about humanity. It's not really hard to be a good person. It's not hard to be a decent person. In my job, I've heard a couple of people who I worked with who are also mentioned in the book. By the way, of course, they're going to be the people who are speaking out against me. Have said things like I was never prepared and I wasn't good at my job, and just these different things. Like they weren't fans of my performance or whatever. I mean, look, I don't care. It doesn't matter if somebody thinks that I'm good on TV or not. It doesn't matter if somebody thinks you're good, at what you do or you're good at your podcast. It doesn't give you any right to treat somebody poorly. So what? I mean, you show up, you do your job. If somebody likes you, great. If they don't, that's okay too. But you can still be nice to that person. I've worked with a lot of people who I know that they cared about doing their job. They weren't that great at it, but I really liked them and I still treated them with respect because their performance had nothing to do with how I treat them. And so I think that these people kind of uh, prove who they really are when they say things like that because um, they're putting how they feel about you based on what they think of how you do your job, which makes no sense. You know, I, I don't know. I look, there are always going to be people like that in this world. You're never going to change them. I think that my point with this book and always been and how I always will be moving forward is if you're going to treat me like that, I'm not just going to sit back and not say anything. If you're okay with treating people like that, that's fine, but I'm okay with exposing you for doing so. And it's amazing once you do that, the number of people who just sit back and shut up. So it will be interesting. There will be some backlash and some heads roll over this book. Some people who try to challenge me, I don't know legally or not, but you know, good luck. And because everything in the book is true and verifiable, so you don't want to be called out.
Talk about
Don't do it.
define what misogynistic culture means to you and how it correlates with this book.
Oh boy, that's another book on its own. The definition of misogyny. I mean, people do it in different ways. Um, and I will say this: I think that women could put a stop to a lot of this stuff by standing up to it more. I say this all the time, Rory, and I'm not saying this because I'm talking to you. I say it no matter who I'm talking to. If women could just watch what the Black community has done since the mid 1900s in the United States and sort of follow that path, our situation in this country would be a lot better. And by that, I mean, you know, there, I'm not saying that the Black community is 100% unified, but it's a heck of a lot more unified than women are. You know, you have women who, a lot of women, you know, they're against women being CEOs. They're against women being president. They're, you know, they're not comfortable with female leadership, which just blows my mind. And so I say that in the fact that, you know, my boss was a woman. The person who hired me was a woman and allowed all this other stuff to happen. So misogyny in this day and age can be obvious. It can be hidden, but it can't be unfelt. You know its presence when it's there. I mean, in my case, it was just um, well, we think that we can do whatever we want to her and give her these assignments, and she won't say anything. And then we can challenge her when she challenges us and take certain assignments away because she won't challenge us because a lot of women don't. I mean, you see it happen time and time and time again in corporate America. I think what they didn't expect, which is why the subtitle of the book is, you know, the title's Troublemaker, and then the subtitle is it includes the fight they didn't see coming, because it usually doesn't happen, especially in something in regards to this. This isn't a story of sexual harassment. This is just a story of mistreatment time and time and time again with a person who wouldn't go away. And um, it's usually not the whole company. In my case, it was a handful of people, a handful of men, and then, you know, one woman who allowed it to happen. But it's just the kind of behavior that they've gotten away with over and over again because nobody challenges it.
The reason why I asked that question is because I feel like somebody that's a podcaster, does a show, a lot of strong talking points that may ruffle men's feathers, which they will label you misogynistic.
Mm.
And I think that that word needs to be outlined, and you have to understand the general basis of what it means. Because misogynistic doesn't necessarily mean being a masculine male and you have strong talking points doesn't mean that they're misogynistic if they're hosting women on their platform,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So, from a perspective, it's like in this world that we're in, especially social media, where so many people are so quick to, you know what I mean, point fingers and things like that. I think that with what you went through, and I'll flat out ask you, what was it, without giving too much spoilers into the book? How does that correlate from social media, strong masculine males talking, versus what happened in the office?
Well, because what happened in the office had consequences. So if you say it on social media, you may get backlash from people who have misogynistic viewpoints or sexist viewpoints or racist viewpoints. But if you're talking about in the office, then there will be backlash in terms of your job. Um, and they were just battles that I had to fight that, you know, my male colleagues didn't. I mean, if I told you the number of times that I was told to smile and pick up energy, they're not saying that to these guys, you know? I mean, and that's not any even mentioned in the book. That's just one small example. But, you know, watch TV, watch TV and watch the difference, especially sports TV. Watch the difference in the women who are up there smiling and, you know, everything is sort of happy go lucky. And then you've got these guys delivering the stuff, and it's, you know, this is serious business. This is sports we're talking about, you know, but the delivery is so different because that's how they tell you to do it. At least that was my experience, you know, smile, pick up your energy, do these things. And, you know, and I'm sitting there looking at the guy next to me and I'm like, we're doing the thing here. Why, you know, why are you saying this to me? um, but no, it's the consequences. It's the consequences when you challenge certain things, when you challenge assignments and the fairness of assignments uh, and why these decisions are made. And then all of a sudden, you know, the schedule gets worse and certain assignments are no longer available. I mean, those are consequences of speaking up that you have, that you know, you really do have to face, that you don't face just in a Twitter war with somebody.
Yeah, no, totally. So, give us one example that women can do if they're experiencing this in the workplace, like kind of eliminating social media from it. Where's it? Do they go HR with it? Is HR going to protect
No.
them? Because I feel like HR is its own
Yeah.
thing too. I think it's a bunch of virtual signals
Well,
to begin with, but
once you read
what
the
can they
book,
do?
I mean, you'll understand that I 100% agree with you. HR was a disaster for me. It was a disaster with other women I worked with. I don't know. I mean, you know, I went through the EEOC, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission here in the United States, which is what you have to do before you file a lawsuit against your employer. It's required to do. But the EEOC doesn't have the funding to really help women, and I think that that's one of the challenges that I talk about in the book, and one of the issues that desperately needs to be addressed is, how do we fix this? How do we make it better? Because HR is not a reliable source for sure. I mean, like in my case, who's paying HR's bill or who's paying their salary? The company is. Whose side are they going to be on? The company's or mine? I mean, you should have seen some of these emails that I got from the head of Golf Channel's HR department, Julie Lusk. It was embarrassing. I mean, just flat out lied and repeatedly. And it, you know, every person I talked to who ever went to HR for anything face the same thing. So no, HR is not a solution. I think your only hope and what corporate America is going to have to do is they're going to have to start putting leaders and managers in place who get it and who will not tolerate this sort of stuff. Otherwise, the backlash is only going to continue to grow. I'm not the only person who will speak out. I do hope that by other women reading this book or other minorities or marginalized groups reading this book, it will encourage them to use their voice and to speak out because as of right now, it is the only guaranteed way to get something done. The only problem is, you know, you could have the result that I faced and get pushed out the door. So, you know, people are really careful when they go down that path. And I understand it. I get it.
You think they push you out the door because they have something to protect?
Um, no, I just think that they push me out the door because they don't like people who challenge them. They don't want that. I mean, I guess in a way they're just, yeah, they're protecting their long-standing way of doing business, which is how they want to do it. They don't want that to change. They, you know, they're pretty good with 1970s.
So, in the HR communities in these companies, do you think they should have more visible minorities to maybe so they could probably eradicate what's going on?
I think that there should be some sort of independent governing body that oversees the work that they're doing. It's too important. Um, that's going to have to be funded nationally in some way. I would love to, um, now that we kind of get to this process and once this book comes out, have meaningful conversations with legislators and people in the know and empower on some of these things. How do we make it better? Because the way that it works right now, it doesn't do any good. I mean, you read about these, and let's just throw sexual harassment out because this is not sexual harassment. This is more about sexism and retaliation. Um, you've heard about these cases. In fact, there's one big one that comes to mind. I think the CFO or COO, very high up executive at Pinterest, sued Pinterest for the very same thing. And she won. The difference is because you're at that level, that executive level, and you're making seven figures plus, you have the ability to go hire a lawyer and fight these battles. What happens with a person who's making $25,000? She doesn't have the funding to do that. I mean, I was making good money working at Golf Channel, but once I lost my job, I didn't have the money to do that. So the way that it's set up right now, it's definitely set up in the favor of these big corporations. So that's how it has to change. And I think the $1 million question for me is, how do we change that? There has to be some sort of independent governing body that regulates HR in some way, shape, or form, because they're covering up a lot
Well
of
said.
stuff.
Yeah, well said. And I see it, you know what I mean? You see it all the time, just with little things that happen, you know what I mean? Just with friends and other things that you hear. And it's just like, yeah, I can see now probably the reason why some people want to go out and do their own thing. That's why you see all these content creators after pandemic wanted to go on YouTube or go on Twitter or go on Facebook and start creating their content, because you don't have to deal with no overhead. You stay within the community guidelines, obviously, but then that's when you have the trolls and all these people trying to cancel you and things like that. Which I spin the question to you now. When this book releases on the 23rd, do you expect that? Do you think some people are going to go on their internet accounts, their Twitter accounts, and maybe screenshot parts of the book and try to highlight who you are and say, oh, these are all lies? I would just look at it as free
Yeah,
promo, because you're just basically
yeah,
advertising my book to the whole
right.
entire world. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate
No,
it.
yeah, you're right. I welcome that. Look, there will be plenty of criticism because I call out enough people that those folks will get their flock of followers or friends or fans or whatever to create some sort of backlash. I'm fully aware that it will happen. I'm prepared. One thing that I don't do when I first spoke out is respond to a lot of the hate. I ignore it, because they all have their own agenda and their own mission. So what's the point? But I think that there will be plenty of people who speak in favor of the story that's being told and the reason that it's being told. I think a lot more people will react positively than negatively. I do feel certain about that, because there's nothing about this book that reads that it's made up. There's nothing about this book that reads that that I'm still angry, and this what's the term that they always try to use, that you're um, oh, what?
Cloud chaser?
No, no, that you're a disgruntled employee. We tackle that.
Mm,
It's such a, you know, first of all, you need to understand the definition of the word disgruntled. A lot of people, I'm disgruntled because I haven't had my third cup of coffee today. I mean, I was disgruntled before I left Golf Channel, but I was disgruntled about, certain coverage matters. I mean, we're all disgruntled about something, but to pin it on, the person who is trying to make the place better, um, it'll happen. I don't care. Like I say at the end of the book, it's kind of like the Dixie Chicks when they faced all that backlash. If anybody's seen that documentary, Natalie Maine said, "Bring it on." You're right, bring it on. If you want to promote the book for me, even with your hateful rhetoric, go for it.
because that's what all it
Yeah,
is. That's all that really is. When people say stuff about you online, or say stuff to you in a group chat, or say or do subliminal posts, all they're really doing is just giving you the
yeah,
airtime. They're just making your name more relevant at the end of the
right.
day. So I champion and I welcome it. Yeah, you get it in podcasting. You say one thing and you'll have people in your DM asking you questions, and it's like, okay,
Yeah.
cool. Thanks for the free
Hmm.
promo. Or you have people that try to make up stories to try to slander your
Yeah.
name, and it doesn't work. I heard a couple guys, and I'd like to give them a shout out. Money Buys Happiness. They did a show with Patrick Bet David, and they talk about that whole canceling thing, right? Which I'm going to spin a question to you when it comes to this. And they talk about saint status. When you incorporate saint status, and I don't want to butcher word for word what Patrick Bet David said, when you get saint status, it's when you're protected. So it's hard for people to really come at you and be like, okay, we're going to cancel Lisa, we're going to cancel Rory, or cancel all the following people. So I ask you this question with inside of that. What would happen, or what's going to happen when you think people are going to say is, oh, all she's trying to do is build clout off of the Golf Channel's name? because that's its own network. Because you might possibly hear that also too once the book releases. No.
Yeah, but look, I think that NBC has a track record of doing this sort of thing. Ronan Farrow spelled it out really well in his book, Catch and Kill. You know, the way that they covered up this whole escapade with Matt Lauer and Harvey Weinstein. It just came out today about Jeff Shell running the company and, you know, this inappropriate relationship that he had. I mean, I'm sure he got a big payday to go away, you know, and um, NBC's kind of made its own bed. I think that folks learned from the Washington Post article that was written after I spoke out, and the number of women who ended up uh, being contacted by the Washington Post, and the investigative reporting that was done, and the stories that came out from that piece really reveals the culture has been accurately portrayed by me. You can't question it. I mean, when you have 19 women speak out in a Washington Post article about things that have happened dating back to the late 90s to present day, when you have uh, 20 plus women from a union who back up my statement saying, look, we get it. We know, we stand by Lisa because we've dealt with our own sexism and retaliation. You can't look away from those numbers. Those numbers are real. And so let somebody try to question it. You know, I mean, I have hard facts to prove everything. This isn't me just like, this isn't a coloring book, you know? This isn't a cartoon book where, you know, we're just creating little stories and trying to learn things. These are real things that happened to me, that happened to other women. I put messages in the book that I received not only from women after I spoke out, but men too, basically saying, look, you know, even as a man, I saw this stuff going on, and good for you for speaking out. I was so glad to get out of that toxic environment after working there for 15 years. So let them challenge that. You know what? They'll look foolish trying to challenge it because every bit of it um, has been verified by countless other sources.
Has this basically limited you from maybe wanting to get back behind the broadcasting chair, maybe for a different network, maybe for something else?
100%. I have no to do it. And it's sad because, you know, I worked hard to get in this industry. You know, I cut my teeth and worked in small markets and got paid nothing and had to move around, was away from my family because I loved it and I believed it was a great future and something that I felt passionately about and still do. I mean, I'm working for the PGA Tour now, doing play by play for their broadcast on ESPN Plus. I'm making about, I don't know, one fourth when you include benefits of what I used to make, but I'm a heck of a lot happier. So, yeah, I have no desire to try to go chase another network job because they're all guilty of the same thing. And I mean, I could say that pretty comfortably. You know, you talk to other people in other networks, and the same stuff is going on. And, you know, these people in power are protected, and HR covers it up. I mean, why put myself through that to go make a bunch of money?
For the ones that want to pursue sports, males, females, and listen to your story, read the book, listen to the book, and they're, say, the age of 13, 15, they're starting to get their wits about sports, whatever sports they want to cover. Do you think they should stay the
I,
independent route or try to chase that
I
network?
think they should stay the independent route. I do. It's harder. I mean, like there are a lot of places where you can work independently, and if you work enough weeks, you can get certain benefits. I do think that that's important. Um, the older I get, the more I realize how important it really is. From health insurance to retirement, I mean, all of those things. It's very lucrative to work for a big corporation. Is it worth the sacrifice? Is it worth the potential risk of your own everyday happiness? I can't say that it is. I mean, I've been through it. I'm not convinced that we're where we need to be in terms of it getting better across the board. And I don't know. I do think that there are a lot of benefits to working independently if you can really, you know, build your own brand and find a way to get your own your own experience in doing so, and develop the skills that you need to succeed.
Well said. So the book is forwarded by Hillary Rodham Clinton. So now this is where I'm kind of like, how did that happen? Because Tucker, when Tucker, okay, when Tucker kind of let the cat out the bag, I could have been like one of them people on the internet and be like, "Yo, what is this? Is this true?" Let me at Lisa. Let me at Tucker in the conversation. Let me at Hillary Rodham Clinton. For the people that don't know who Hillary Rodham Clinton is, maybe you need to get on Google's Wikipedia. I don't know, Chat GPT. I don't know. Figure it out.
I I don't
How
think
did you get
anybody
this?
doesn't know who Hillary is. I'm related.
Some people might be living under
Yeah,
a
you
rock.
never
I don't
know.
know,
You never
Lisa. I
know.
don't know.
So I'm related to Bill, and in fact, yeah, Bill
Excuse me?
Clinton's my cousin, and we're very close. And so,
Wow.
chapter 3 in the book is titled POTUS. And so it's about many of my experiences once Bill actually going back to when he was governor, and some experiences that happened when he was president. I would go up to the White House and stay quite often. We'd go play golf, and yeah, I tell some interesting stories of one story in particular when I got forcibly put down on the ground on the north lawn of the White House. I triggered an alarm unknowingly. All of this while Bill was on the phone with Boris Yeltsin. So I go into great detail. It's a great story. But to make a long story short, Bill, I wrote a lot of this. Tucker and I wrote a lot of this during COVID. It was really perfect timing. And since Bill wasn't traveling a lot, he was able to be a good advisor for me. Obviously, former president, brilliant mind, but he's written a lot of books. And so he helped me with a lot of the stages of it. I would send him stuff and he would give me feedback and we'd go back and forth. So finally, when the book was complete and I felt good about it, I didn't want to ask Hillary to do it before I had a clear understanding of what the book was and that it was something that I was proud of, and I thought she would be proud to put her name on it. So I called Bill, and it's so funny because every time we talk, it's a long conversation. But this is really one of the few times I've ever called and asked him for something, and his tone changed immediately. And I thought at first that he was upset that I asked him, and he just got very serious, and he said, "I know what to say. Let me talk to her. I'll handle it and be back in touch." And then he just hung up abruptly. And it was so funny. And he called me back about a week later. They were on vacation, and he said she's going to do it. And so it was great. It was just, I think I teared up a little bit because it was a big ask. I mean, the book is called Troublemaker, and I am calling out a media giant. It's controversial, but anybody who knows Bill and Hillary, they're not afraid to support you when they know that you're doing the right thing. And I'm telling you, Rory, her forward could not have been better. I can't wait for folks to read it. I know that we live in this very divided world politically. And so, unfortunately, it could be, from Shakespeare, and people would hate it because her name's attached to it. But this doesn't have to do with politics. It's very personal in terms of me and my experience. It means the world to me that she did it.
Holy shit, man, oh man. You know why I need the audiobook now? Because I've listened to some books that get the forward, and when they do the narration from the person who forwarded the book, it's like you're like, yo, I'm just like, okay, buckle
Yeah.
up. Is that what you're trying? Is that what you're heading
Yeah,
into?
we'll
Is that what's
see. I
gonna
mean, it would
happen?
be, it would be great. A lot of times with memoirs, the forwards aren't read by the person who did it. I recently just finished Nelson Mandela's autobiography, and Bill Clinton actually did it. And he didn't read the forward. It has an accompanied PDF attachment of the forward. Same is true for the other forward or the other book that I just read that had the same sort of document. But no, that's a great idea. That's something that I can certainly certainly request. It would be cool to have her read it because it's so incredibly well done, and obviously a very distinguished and accomplished person like her. I mean, like, it's already an honor to have her name on the front cover. That's great.
Heck, it's an honor to even have you on this remote podcast and having this conversation because I'll be honest, like when you see things you see it, but then when you hear it and you let it digest and you receive it, you understand what it's all about. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's the power of not only networking, but knowing the most important people at the right time. You know what I mean? Because everything's about timing. I feel like I've always said this. Sometimes I feel like our destiny is already written. It's for us to follow through, right? And I know a lot of people are like, oh, what do you mean by that? But it's the truth to a degree.
Yeah.
No matter what you're doing, everybody's got a story to tell. I got so many stories to tell, right? That's on a maybe a more of a relationship conversation, but it's like names are going in books. I don't know what's going to happen after that though, because I'll just be like, hey, bring it. It's all
Mm.
good. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Because there's some things that need to be said. And I know that I've always heard this from maybe one of the most controversial people of all of 2022 going into 2023. I'm not going to say his name, but people will understand. And I always quote him when he said is, with great influence comes, great responsibility. Right. And he got a lot of backlash for the things he was saying. Some of it I agree, some of it I disagree. It is what it is. But at the same time, you have to just take everything with a grain of salt. You know what I mean? And I understand that we go through some things in life. We may say some things, we experience some things, we share our stories. But that doesn't mean you have to simply sit here and jump down the rabbit hole and start calling us out and doing all this other stuff. Get the actual long format and understand, and then process it instead of responding. But I think we're so caught up into this everyday world as the world is going round and round and round. There's 24 hours in a cycle. Everybody's like, yeah, okay, cool. It's so easy just to press cancel
Mm.
culture. So easy to press, I don't want to deal with him or her. And it's just weird to me. You know what I mean?
Like I couldn't agree more. We're in this what we live in this 11-second society now that everybody sort of has this attention span that's basically the equivalent of a TikTok video. Uh, I mean,
Talk
you
about
know,
it.
uh, like, and I say this in the book, and part of it does relate to the fact that Bill and Hillary Clinton are mentioned, and this political divide that we have, and it's not just in this country; it's around the world. I know you're in Canada, but it's everywhere, and people aren't talking and listening to each other anymore. They just have their own set of opinions, their own set of agendas, and nothing else is going to change their view. The problem with that is, you know, we're not always right. And you learn by listening. And if you're not listening, you're not learning, you're not growing. I really think that we are a very um, uneducated, even though we're a highly educated society. But when it just comes to everyday life, we're in a very uneducated world because we're not learning from each other and listening and growing and changing and evolving intellectually by our experiences. And so like I couldn't agree with more of what you said. And it's the reason why I wanted to write this book because people ask this book about, and I'm like, I can't tell you that. It's about my experience. I mean, there's so many different things that happened, and I think that even people who knew that they knew what I faced at Golf Channel until they've read the book. They're like, man, I didn't realize that it was all of that. And I kind of put it in the sense of watching dominoes fall. If I put three dominoes up and I just kind of tipped over three dominoes, you wouldn't pay any attention to it. You'd be like, okay, yeah, so what? But if I put 30 dominoes in like this little S curve around and I tipped it over, and all of a sudden you started watching it and you're like, oh wow, that was amazing. And it's kind of like this, all these little microaggressions and these things that happened to me inside the workplace at Golf Channel is kind of like those 30 dominoes. And when you read the book, it kind of all comes together. And you're like, okay, now I get it. Now I understand why you were so angry. Now I understand why you spoke to the Washington Post. Now I understand why you wanted to write a book because it's impossible to tell with having this long form ability to get your story across. And like we both have said, everybody has their own stories. I mean, I mentioned Mandela's autobiography, and it's incredible. Which, by the way, most people don't know, his African birth name translates to troublemaker. So I feel like I have a little bit of Nelson Mandela inside of me. I mean, I've always been an admirer
Let's
of his,
go.
but I didn't know that
Let's talk
until
about
I
it.
started reading the book, and it was really cool. I recommend it to anybody. I listened to it. It truly is life changing. Just what an incredible human. I mean, my goodness, I've done one fraction of 1% compared to what that man did in terms of trying to change lives for Black people in Africa. It's amazing. South Africa, excuse me.
So true. So true. And the thing is like you think about our athletes and politicians and world figures, you know, I was speaking about this with somebody is like, you think about the time of when Lady Princess Diana passed away and the ripple effect that that created. And then you think about everybody else along the lines that have come, and I read a little insert with you in your, what was it, your junior, you're nationally ranked with a pretty familiar
Mm.
face in all of golf. I'd still say one of the best golfers in the world. I know there's a lot of, people say different things. Um,
Yeah,
Tiger, Tiger Woods. How did like you watched the man play? You've seen him. You've been close. Like, how cool is that? And just off of just what you want to say, like that friendship, how would that even transpire? And are you guys still speaking, or
yeah.
is it just, you guys kind of grow
No,
apart
no,
and stuff
no.
like that?
We still text each other. I've known Tiger since I was what 15. He was 14. I'm a year older than he is. We played on a national junior circuit together here in the States, the American Junior Golf Association, and we just we just hit it off. I mean, we became buddies. We were both big golf nerds. Very, very much students.
I
Yeah,
couldn't
right.
tell. I wouldn't be able to
You
tell
can't
that.
see the background here. Very, very much students of the game. And chapter 2 of the book is actually called The Younger Years and a Kid Named Tiger. And I talk about how we met and some of the stories. And I got to know his dad really well. His dad, Colonel Woods, who was a Green Beret in the Army, he was a mentor to me and taught me a lot. So I tell some of those stories and sort of when, I started working at Golf Channel and reconnecting with Tiger and being able to spend time and yeah, it's like I'm very fortunate, I mean, think about some of these people who I've had in my life and who have influenced me. A lot of folks will look at, some of the bad things that have happened to Tiger and say, well, he shouldn't influence you. Well, yeah, he's the greatest golfer, in my opinion, of all time, of course. You're talking about a person who has overcome odds and achieved success and continues to defy the odds. You can focus on the negative things if you want. I'm going to focus on what I want to focus on. And like, he's a great guy. We all have our shortcomings in life. None of us are perfect, but yeah, I mean, I love Tiger. I'm really proud to have known him for as long as I have. Very proud of what he's accomplished, and just really grateful to have him as a friend.
I'll say what I'm going to say here because he is the greatest to ever do it. And I'm going to say this right now. I don't think he's
I
done.
hope you're right. I hope
I
you're
don't.
right.
I don't think he's done. And I'm not gonna I'm not gonna fanboy here. It's just because I know of what he did to the game. Like if people actually watch golf, realize that he changed and reshaped
Yeah,
the game. A lot of the guys that we're seeing right now wouldn't maybe be in that
no,
place.
and they admit that,
You know what time it is.
and they admit
Pardon me?
that.
Exactly. When you look at Sunday and he's even in contention, you better buckle up because you know he's
Yeah,
coming.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Sunday Tiger. Like I say, Sunday Tiger meets Sunday dinner. And if you're not out there wanting to win that major, he's gonna just come
yeah,
take your plate. He's gonna finish your
yeah,
food for you.
yeah,
You know?
100%. And I think we're all hoping that you're exactly right. It's been quite a show that he's put on for the last 20 years or so, 20 plus years. And I don't think any of us are ready for that show to be over. I know I'm not.
No, no, tough. Definitely, definitely. Before we get out of here, I want to have some fun now because I feel like we got really, really, um, you and Tucker golf. Who's the better golfer of the two? I'm curious.
You got to be kidding. You
I'm
you want me
asking
to
the
play like
question.
lefty?
Who's the better golfer of you two? I know he's gonna love
Oh,
this.
I would kill him.
Whew. Really?
Yeah, I mean, come on. I played in college. What'd Tucker do? Rap? He can out rap me. No, I could play with one hand and probably beat him. Rory, come on. No,
Can you guys put that on video,
I
part
grew
of
up playing with
a
Tiger
vlog,
Woods.
please? Listen, can you just put that in the vlog? Because see, the reason why I ask this question is because I got
Yeah,
love for Tucker, but it's just like sometimes Tucker can be annoying in
yeah.
my DM when it comes to
Oh
sports.
gosh.
So I need
No,
him to
no,
be
no.
humbled.
He doesn't do that to me. You know why? It's better.
He's always jaw jacking about the Lakers and LeBron and this and that. So
Yeah,
yeah, I need somebody to humble him. Can you just
I
do that
got
for
you.
me?
I got you. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm on
yeah.
it.
I would love to. I would love to be a part of that vlog because I think that would be even like if you guys just did a front nine. You know what I mean? Something simple. Back nine, whatever. Find a course just to see what would happen.
We could hit one shot and you'd be like, okay, game over.
So basically, you're saying that he couldn't hit the green. You're just saying that it's just bunker or water hazard.
I can't imagine what Tucker's golf swing looks like, but okay, we'll see. We'll go for
Maybe it's as good as his rap.
it.
Oh, I know he's gonna love that. I feel like I'm gonna get. He's gonna. It's all good though. No, it's all love to Tucker. He's like I would say like that big
Yeah,
brother to
yeah.
me. You know what I
He's a
mean? And
teddy bear.
when we have those, yeah, beat them those deep conversations and things like that, and he speaks highly of you
Oh,
all the
thanks.
time. you know, and I've seen some of his pieces. I've, had the ability to have him host shows on this platform. You know what I mean? To where now he has his own platform. And I'm just happy to see everything he's doing, and that's why I say it's so important to be able to
Yeah,
network and network within the right ways and not ever overexhaust. Not say you're welcome, but there's a lot of people that network with you just to really want to just take because may have a name or you may know this person or you maybe can open this door for them. And nothing should ever be like that. It should just always be what's the deposit going to be into a friendship, and then you make it into a network. And because this is what it's about, right? It's not about that little fancy paper that we've
yeah.
got. Sometimes it's just a Instagram, Twitter DM, and heck, you end up becoming friends, lifelong
That's how it
friends,
should
you know?
be.
Absolutely. So, the book, I want you to plug all that information. Where can people get it? Where can people see it? What do you have coming up for you for the rest of 2023? I feel like your agenda is going to be busy. You probably got a lot going on, book tours, maybe, other podcasts, things like that. What
Yeah,
do you
I
got
hope
going
so.
on in highlights all your
Yeah,
social
right now
media?
everything's just focused on the book, getting it out May 23rd. People can buy it on Amazon. Just type Troublemaker in the search bar, and I'm sure the cover will come up and you can click on it and get it there. I mean, it's available anywhere online, I think, but that's probably the easiest. So, yeah, we'll be doing some promos. We're still trying to get all that stuff together. Don't have it all completely finalized. Podcast to go out and talk about the book. Yeah, I've been getting back into uh, just staying busy with my PGA Tour live stuff and out there just peddling books, I guess.
I like that. So, what's the brand you golf with? Is it Nike? What is it?
I'm a Strixon. Strixon. It's a Japanese brand. Yeah,
Okay.
it's good stuff.
Why the Japanese brand? Just
I like the
curious.
folks there. They've been friends for a long time, and yeah, they've always taken good care of me. They're a good company. So yeah, it's just been a great affiliation and partnership.
Cool. And I see all the clubs behind you. Those
Those
are
are all
putters, right?
putters,
I
yeah.
take it. Yeah. Why so many putters? I'm
because
just
it's
curious. 'Cause
hard.
I'm not
It's
a
a hard
golf
game,
person.
Rory. And when things go wrong, you blame the club. That's what I've learned, especially the putter. You know, you just, oh yeah,
Really?
you're not making putts. You just go grab another putter. So see that I have options.
Okay. So that's what you go. You just pick whatever one for an 18 and just
I'll
put it
keep
in
it
the
for a
bag, and then
while,
you're
and then
good to
I'll
go.
toy around with another one. We're weird like
Okay.
that. The other clubs stay pretty consistent, but the putter gets changed out a lot, probably because I'm not a very good putter. So that's what
Okay.
happens.
So I may have you in that
No,
department.
you and Tucker still don't have me in that department.
You haven't seen me. I think I could outputt you.
Okay.
Can we go mini
Yeah,
golf
let's
one
do it.
day?
Okay.
Okay. You pick the
Okay.
course. You tell me. I'll give you all the. I give you home field
Okay. I'm
advantage.
in. I'm in.
Okay. Because I know how to read angles
Okay.
pretty good.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
I got it.
Okay. We'll make it
I'm
happen.
in.
We'll make it happen. I appreciate you, Lisa. Thank you for coming on the
Thank you,
show.
Rory.